Hello outsiders, it's Justice Fry here. Spider-Man 2 is one of the best Spider-Man movies ever, one of my personal favorites. Peter loses his powers, the struggle between him and Mary Jane, and that train scene. So good. This movie also gave us Alfred Molina as Doctor Otto Octavius. And I could go on about how good he is at both bringing the character to life and being a compelling villain. However, despite him being a great villain, I would argue that he's not the main antagonist. But Spider-Man doesn't fight any other villains, I hear you saying, unless you count Mr. Dickovich and Rent Troubles. And while this is true, there is one antagonistic force who does more damage to Peter in this film than Doc Ock ever did. I'm done beating around the bush. Let me tell you why Spider-Man 2's true villain is Spider-Man himself. But Spider-Man is a hero, I hear you arguing. Who do I think I am, J. Jonah Jameson? No. I think I'm Peter Parker. In all seriousness, Spider-Man is a hero, but that doesn't mean he can't also be an antagonist. An antagonist is defined as one who contends against another, an adversary, the principal character in opposition to the protagonist. And protagonists do not have to be good, they just have to be the main character. Take Death Note for example. Light is the protagonist as he is the main character, while L is the main antagonist trying to stop him. Despite this, most people would argue that L is the good guy while Light is evil. But, okay, what does this have to do with Spider-Man? He's clearly the protagonist, the movie is named after him. And under most circumstances, you would be correct. But the problem here is that Spider-Man isn't the protagonist. Peter Parker is. But Spider-Man and Peter Parker are the same person. This is true. However, in any given work of prose, there are three possible conflicts. Man versus man, the general one for superhero movies, as the conflict can be over something as big as opposing ideologies, or as small as just a random act of violence. Man versus nature, which is about how mankind exploits the resources of the natural world and how that isn't worth it. And man versus self, defined by the protagonist coming to terms with their own way of thinking and challenging it or altering it in some way. To me, it seems obvious that the main conflict of Spider-Man 2 falls into that third category. At the end of the last movie, Peter chose to leave MJ for her own safety. This is the great responsibility choice, i.e. Spider-Man. But from the beginning of this film, we know that Peter still wants to be with her, and therefore we have a conflict. How does Peter reconcile what he wants with the oath he made to Uncle Ben? In addition to this, the movie uses the writing technique of, but wait, it gets worse, to show how Spider-Man has ruined Peter's life. He's behind in school, can barely hold a job, has to ruin his image as Spider-Man just to try to afford rent, can't be with the woman he loves, is forming a wedge between him and his best friend, and then the powers stop working. There's been speculation around why he lost the powers for a while, but every time he loses them, it's due to him messing things up with Mary Jane, because he was too busy doing things as Spider-Man to be there for her. Perhaps I'm reaching a bit, but I believe that while the loss of the powers is related to his feelings for MJ, it is further related to the idea that Spider-Man is the cause of that. A mental block because he is fighting himself over what he wants.
That's the problem, he doesn't know what to think.
This culminates in him having the great scene where he talks to Uncle Ben and decides to quit, choosing his own life instead of the life Spider-Man imposes upon him. Peter even returns to how he was in the first movie, glasses and all, because this is the result of him completely removing the Spider-Man side of his life. But then the responsibility slowly creeps up on him, making him second guess if removing Spider-Man was the right choice. He's even willing to put himself in a burning building as Peter, because that's what his philosophy is and he can't escape that. But what about the jump? He wants to be Spider-Man, right? If he does, then he should get the powers back by this logic. But he doesn't, because there's still one more obstacle he needs to overcome. MJ. He once gave her up to keep her safe, but now he needs to give her up to make that decision to be the hero again. For Spider-Man to return, Peter must be willing to give up everything he wants to keep them safe. But as MJ attempts to kiss him, Peter's powers return. Also small tangent, but Doc Ock was told to find Peter and decided to throw a car at him, not knowing that Peter is Spider-Man. Good thing Peter is, because otherwise he's dead and that plan falls through. Anyway, the powers coming back now are symbolic of Peter and Spider-Man reconciling with each other because they share a goal: protecting Mary Jane. In fact, it's only once she gets captured that the powers return completely. To prove my point further, take note of what happens in every following scene that features Spider-Man: the train, the reveal with Harry, and the final fight. In all of these scenes, Peter's mask comes off at some point, revealing his identity. Was this done so we could emote better on camera? Probably. But I think it goes further into the idea that Peter and Spider-Man are one and the same. The best example of this is of course the train scene, because it's Peter who puts his all into saving the passengers and is rewarded with them promising to keep his identity safe. Capped off with him putting the mask back on because Spider-Man is no longer an antagonist. But to really sell this home is the ending of the movie where Peter and MJ can finally be together. Not a fan of MJ abandoning John at their wedding, but the fact that Spider-Man can continue to be a hero and Peter can be with her simultaneously is the final nail in the coffin to prove that these two will not be opposing forces ever again. Spider-Man cannot get in the way of Peter Parker's life anymore. Spider-Man 2 is regarded as one of the best superhero movies ever, and in my opinion, it's because the movie focuses so much on the man behind the mask. We see all of his struggles because of his decision to be Marvel's greatest hero. But it's only when these two halves of the same person can achieve their goals together that they can truly stop Doc Ock and reach an outcome where both are allowed to prosper, showing one of the best versions of a man versus self story. Thank you for watching. Have a God bless day, everyone.